Well, here is my epiphany. So audience members, Lance has sent me a wonderful Christmas gift.
Mm.
It was a beautiful shirt. It was see-through, which is weird. He asked me to take a picture of it. Um, and
Sheared.
uh, and a picture of Clive Barker with an unknown man at the time.
Unknown to Mikey only, actually.
And I said, "Who's this guy with Clive Barker?" And I was like, "That's David Cronenberg." And I was thinking for a moment. I was like, when did they work together? What we are discussing today. Now, before I begin, is anybody wanting to host? Because I was just gonna go with it.
Well, I was gonna do it, but that's fine.
You can do it. Let me just say my first thing.
Because I know you're gonna talk shit now, so continue.
Not about you. Let's just say a lot of my favorite things are 50 and or soon turning 50. And we did our Spotify wrap up, which the increase of the age range that we have increased the most in is 50 plus. And so I can only assume that's because of the addition of our lovely, lovely Lance, who is almost a half centurion himself.
Woo! Yeah. Good
It's,
times.
it's got 2 more years.
Yeah.
We gotta throw him a big birthday party.
Yeah,
Oh,
we do. Um, but yeah, so Lance really wanted to cover this movie. I was not for it. I said, no, Lance. We've done this movie many times. We've even talked about this movie in ad nauseum in other
mhm.
Christmas episodes or episodes that don't have anything to do with this movie. Aid was pretty much like she always is, pass on the couch, just saying whatever. So I decided, you know what? Let's let them have their cake. And I will present to you later on a Black Christmas series trivia to see who is the actual king and queen of Black Christmas.
Okay.
Well, considering somebody in this room was just watching it today,
I've seen it before. It's
and
been a hot second.
considering I watched this multiple times during the Christmas season,
Oh my
I'm
God.
I
just
always
saying.
I always watch it when I'm wrapping gifts because that's my excuse to not have the girls in the room when I wrap their presents.
Oh,
It's a ploy. Nice.
Hmm.
that's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one. I do the same thing. I actually play it when I'm decorating the Christmas tree.
Hmm. Yeah, and then when it gets to the second one, because you wrap for multiple days, I have a big old goblet of wine, just like that bitch in the beginning. Black Christmas is 50 years old, but it expands to one great sequel and one unfortunate sequel.
Mm.
But I felt the same way when I first saw it because I was the same age as you, because we're the same age. You're a little older. But uh, I remember watching it because I was at Christmas and my cousin's ex-girlfriend was there. She was pregnant. Everybody was getting drunk and having fun. I wasn't drinking because I was 18, and I mean I probably could have if I wanted to, but I've never really been a huge drinker up until I started having kids. And so
Why is that?
I just there's life gets hard.
Life is
Life
that's
gets
the
hard.
date.
And so I was like, hey, this movie just came out. You want to go watch with me? She was like, sure. So we left Christmas early because my Christmases and my family go like all night and they just drink and eat. And, it's fun for a while, but if you're sober, it's not so fun. So we went and saw it. And I remember being like, maybe it's because I was just so enamored with the first one and how it was very suspenseful, low key, low burn, slow burn, whatever, whatever. And this new one was just like in your face, like Rob Zombie got a hold of it. Um, but I have definitely now, like stepping back a couple years later and watching it again and being like, if you actually look at this as a sequel, not a remake, it's actually really fucking good.
Okay.
Y- Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. And I think that the way that the films parallel each other and they do have like reminiscent themes like from Black Christmas. I mean, the main one being I know that 1974, has the theme of, Jess wanting her own body autonomy and like talking about abortion, especially in the 70s, like they were talking about it.
Yeah.
Insane. And then you flash forward to the 2006, and the big heavy hitter theme with the toxic male in the house is the fact that he's filming himself having sex with multiple girls in the house and then calling them bitches. You stuck up bitches. And I'm like, are you fucking like at the
Lance.
time in 2006, he didn't bother me. But watching that movie now, I'm like just as angry as I am with Peter trying to tell Jess and the first one, like you're gonna be sorry, if you
Yeah.
have an abortion. And so, just to deal with those themes, like these films are as brutal as they are so feminist, and which is why I love them. So, and they're
Yeah.
also very Christmassy. Yay.
Yeah, and also, I mean, yeah, this literally Christmas threw up all over it, which is what makes it so charming and an actual holiday movie, not, I've always expressed before how I always hate when it's like, oh, it takes place on Christmas and there's just like a Christmas tree somewhere in the back. No, this is Christmas incarnate. Lance,
Yeah.
you really like this movie. Please tell
Yeah.
me why.
No, Black Christmas is really great. I mean, and you know the thing, but it does hold a really good balance between women having more say in what they do in life. I mean, and especially in the 70s, and you're talking about like not that far away from the hippie era, where people, just youth in general, were like kind of saying, hey, no, just because you say this is the way things should be, this is not what we want. And it was kind of cool to see it be more elevated into, women, especially in like sororities, because sororities by itself just get a bad rap where they're all like basically the jocks, side piece, you know what I mean, for everything they do. You know what I mean? Like, sororities get that, but like these seem like a good mix of women who were like all had their own abilities to say, hey, this is where we're at, this is what we like, this is what's gonna happen, and the fact that the Peter guy like it kills me every time. You always forget, but like it's like him going, we're gonna get married, that's what we're gonna do now. She's like, no, like that's not gonna change anything. It doesn't. Me having the child doesn't matter if we were married or not married. Like, it was kind of weird that he went to the consistency of what normal people do. And I also like with that what would you call her? Like the not the landlady, but like
House Mother.
The
it's
house
so,
mother,
yeah. I thought she was
Mrs.
funny.
Mac.
Yeah, yeah. I basically thought that was Aid as she got older.
Oh, that's not true. Mrs. Mack is nice. But
Yeah, no, well, it's funny that you say that because I actually found a piece of trivia about Chris. So it's in the movie, his name is Chris, right? Yeah, the boyfriend's name.
mhm.
And Chris Hayden. And he's played by Art Hingle, who, by the way, is in a bunch of my favorite Hallmark movies.
Oh, is he
He's in
still
his
alive?
70s. Yeah, he's in his 70s now. He still looks good too. He looks the same. Because I remember I was watching him and he was in a I think one with Lacey Chabert. Go figure.
Yeah, which
And
one?
I know,
90% of
they're
them?
pretty much.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it and I'm like, is that who I think it is? Because he's also, I mean, he was a big actor at the time. He was in Invasion of the Body Snatchers and in The Brood. So he was in things, so people knew who he was. So it wasn't like he was a no-name actor.
Yeah.
But to see him now in Hallmark is just great. But one of the best things I found when I was doing my research today, because I know I've done research on this movie before and I couldn't find my old notes, but he was saying how they had changed the ending because the original ending for the film was supposed to like the Warner Brothers had asked the studio to ask Clark to change the ending scene and have Chris appear in front of Jess at the end of the movie,
Hmm.
in front of the bed and say, Agnes, don't tell them what we did before killing her. And I'm like, oh, that is so chilling because it's just so interesting if that was him. You know what I mean? Like thinking about Chris being the killer and not Peter, because Peter is basically the red herring, right?
Yeah.
The entire film. And he was still a fucking asshole, so whatever.
Wasn't like he like made it easy for anybody not to think that. I mean, every little thing he was doing after like she found out he was pregnant,
Yeah.
it's like a dick mode, like automatically. It's like,
Dick
jeez.
mode. When I was watching a Q&A with Bob Clark, there are people that still think Peter is possibly the killer. And he said that Peter is not the killer. He said like he knows that the ending is open to interpretation, but he regrets not making the time between when Jess is like attacked and when she goes to the front door and he's there. He wished he would have made that time shorter so that it would be more like, well, how could he be there if he was in the house? And so
Oh,
he did confirm that Peter is not the killer.
Well, no,
mm.
and Peter definitely isn't. I mean, he's clearly one of the biggest red herrings in the film. So we have Peter as a red herring, and then we also have sometimes I kind of feel like they're trying to allude that it well, it's not Claire's father. But sometimes I feel like they're trying to allude that maybe it's one of the other girls in the house. I don't
Yeah.
know. Sometimes, especially the way that Barb behaves. And so it's interesting to kind of think that maybe because Barb is such a complicated character. And I was just because I literally just watched this again yesterday so that I could, because I love watching this movie like in the background. But when I stop and actually look at it, there's so many things that I miss. And one of the things that I had noticed before was Barb on the telephone in the beginning of the film with her mom. And I know that she was bitching at her mom and this, that, and the third, but she had said something to her. Now I can't remember what it was. And it was so interesting because it just made me feel like Barb is like completely just a mess because no one in her life is really like close with her. And then when Claire's saying, I can't go skiing with you, like I feel like that was like a snap. But then obviously it's not Barb because, we know that the person making the phone calls is,
Well, she's on the phone with her at that other point too. So and
yeah.
they're all
So she's on the
and
phone.
most of the
Yeah.
women are in the room together when the one phone call happens. Like everybody that was there, you know what I mean. So that
Hmm.
takes away that unless there's somebody that's missing, which they could have probably pulled that off at some point. I mean, I've always had a I've always had reservations about the ending of this movie, just on the fact that it, it what cops leave someone who was attacked by somebody in the house that they were attacked and then just leave one guy outside and then like, yeah, we'll just turn the lights off, let's not check that out. The father randomly decides the fate. I mean, like, I think the boyfriend from Claire and the dad seem to be very more like casual, that they just didn't find the two dead bodies in the attic. I guess
No,
really never found them.
they never found them. So that's how you know. So to rewind a little bit, um, the film, if you haven't seen it, and by now I hope that you have, because spoiler.
Like it's 50 years old. If you haven't seen it, I don't think anything can be a spoiler for you unless you just literally haven't ever seen it. But I mean,
That, well, true. But the story follows a group of sorority sisters who receive threatening phone calls and are eventually stalked and murdered by a killer during the Christmas season. So, one of the biggest things that people love to talk about Halloween is at the beginning is like the POV, the point of view of the killer. And yet we did never really give Black Christmas credit for that because I mean, as far as slashers goes, it's the first one that I can think of before Halloween, especially how it's done so well too. Because I even feel like, and I always bitch about this when I watch Halloween, is that when you're watching the beginning of Halloween and Michael's walking through the house, he's standing at the height of an adult. And this is supposed to be a 6-year-old child.
Yeah.
So that's what annoys me. I'm like, let's be a little bit more real.
In the Q&A, he mentioned something like, I know that there's a rumor that Halloween is John Carpenter stole my script for the sequel for Black Christmas. He's like, that's not the case. He's like, I never had intentions of a sequel, but I got together with John Carpenter because he was a big fan of Black Christmas, and he said, "Are you going to make a sequel to Black Christmas?" And this is what I was saying earlier about like Bob Clark. Bob Clark was like, "I'm not a horror filmmaker. It's like I made a horror movie, but like that I'm not a horror. Like I'm not going to continue making horror movies." So John Carpenter was like, "Okay, so if he was
check.
like, well, he was like, if you were going to make a sequel, what would it be?" And he's like, okay, so it would be basically they caught the killer in the beginning, and you know, the killer goes away and escapes a year later and comes back to the house. And so John Carpenter was like, got it. And so, and he said, and I would set it on Halloween, and it would be called Halloween. And so John Carpenter was like, got it. And so he said that when John Carpenter was approached for Halloween, he's like, the movie was already called Halloween. It was already a movie. He's like, but he was he said he was probably influenced by me, but he did not steal anything from me. So,
Yeah, no, I don't think that he stole anything. I mean, far be it for me to say to take to reach when I say that, people borrow
well,
or play
when I say
homage or
yeah, and when I say steal, I don't mean like literally like maliciously, but it's like, he stole the idea or like he had the script and was like, let me have it and I'll make it. He's like, okay. But Bob Clark, I probably inspired him a little bit, but I didn't, that's all. Like I didn't have any part in making Halloween. Because some people think it was like legit Bob Clark's movie that John Carpenter took under his wing and kind of like how Stephen King did with all those other horror movies from the 90s.
yeah. Well, I mean, and
Not Stephen King, Steven Spielberg, sorry.
Steven Spielberg, yeah.
I was like, wait, what?
No.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and I'd never really considered that either because I'm like, I feel like by now we would know the truth. And obviously Bob Clark has told us, has spoken the truth. So here we are. But there's a lot of other things that I found interesting about the film that I didn't know before. And it's to me, I think I never really had a version of this with any special features. So I never really watched any documentaries. In fact, the only thing that I've ever seen about it as a documentary was when I'd initially been introduced to it on AMC's 100 Scariest Movie Moments. And we always talk about the time when I was like dying to see this movie because Olivia Hussey was being interviewed and she said that this was Steve Martin's favorite movie. He'd seen it like 27 times. So, and she thought he was talking about Romeo and Juliet. And no, he was talking about Black Christmas. So I know, right?
That's
And
fun.
so, yeah, and I just love that. So I think I was like, we have to see this movie, and especially because it is a set, and this is why I love 70s horror, because one of my favorite films, obviously, is Black Christmas. And Gene, what is it? Siskel and Ebert? What's Gene Siskel or whatever I don't know, the chubby one, was complaining and said that this was like a run-of-the-mill slasher film. And like just and called it like it said it was a murky, slow-moving tale. And I'm like, I don't really think that it's necessarily a slow moving tale. There's just a lot happening. And I think that if you are paying attention to the characters and what each of these characters is going through, because they all have their own little story. Like you
Mhm.
tell, like Claire right off the bat, we know she's new in the house. Barb's picking on her all the time. Like she's got her, but she's the nicest one. So she's got the cute boyfriend, the townie, so to speak. And as Barb would say, you can't townie.
Oh my god.
Um, Barb is like a beast in this movie.
Do you know that jacket that boyfriend was wearing was hilarious? Like a man fur coat, I guess it was. I
A lot
always
of
make fun
guys
of
wore that.
Lance,
yeah.
that's normal in the North.
Yeah, I know, but unfortunately that's like I just see that I'm like, what's going on here?
I
It's
don't
a
believe
lot
in
of
gendered
guys.
clothing, so I guess I don't see it.
I mean, I'm sure you had one when you were just a little baby,
I
but
did not.
uh, I'll
Sorry,
have
man.
to.
Lance doesn't think you can wear fur coats, but I say go for it. It looks great.
Yeah, Mr. Running around in skinny jeans yesterday, taking pictures of
Oh
Krampus.
shit.
Whoa,
Hmm.
whoa! Why are we going after Crumpus? Amazing.
I didn't go after Krampus. I went after your skinny jeans.
Oh Jesus.
Anyway, even though this was only a measly budget of $686,000, it did make $4 million worldwide
Ooh.
and has spawned two reboots
And
and
it's still
two
making money.
yeah, two Indiegogo films, has inspired, countless of other horror films. And I feel like if you are not a fan of this movie or haven't seen it, you better watch it. And if you didn't like it when you first saw it, then you just didn't appreciate it enough because there are so many things to touch on. But anyways,
Well, I mean, you have to make at the same time too with this movie. It's like if you don't like this movie, then you probably don't like a lot of other movies that have taken from this movie. You know what I mean? Like there's quite a few things from this that like people have reinstalled into something newer. You know what I mean? It's like the phone call stuff would be literally Scream, like we were talking about. The POV, Halloween.
Yeah.
Like so many people love this fucking movie that are like making the movies that you watch and love now. You know what I mean? It'd be shocking for you to say you don't like this movie, but hey, maybe.
Well, that statement made me hate this movie. I've changed my mind. But um, well, now that everybody is fully aware of our age difference. You should have at least watched 2006 to be able to talk about it. But we
I didn't know
have,
we were gonna do that. We didn't say that.
I
okay,
assumed
don't
you'd watched
yell,
it.
first of
Who,
No,
all.
no.
You were so gung ho. You were so gay for redoing Black Christmas. You just wanted to do the original one for the third time.
look at, see, you were talking and he can't get a word in.
No, I just the 50th one is the best one, and the 50 years. I mean, like, I don't want to see a remake of it. I like this one.
Next Christmas, put it on now. We're
I
good.
know.
2006.
I'll put it
And
on
the
just to.
minute we're done with this podcast, you better go freaking watch it. And
Yeah.
then with that, I need to pause because I need to get Stella something.
Okay. And we're doing a Patreon, Lance.
Are we doing it for Patreon? Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, I am so disappointed in you.
No, it's one of those things. I just never yeah, like when somebody says they're gonna if somebody said they were gonna remake fucking Monster Squad, I'd be like,
But it's
no.
not a remake, though. It's a sequel.
Yeah, but see, they don't. It didn't come off like that when it was coming out, at least to me,
Well,
anyways.
I don't know if they meant to do that. I like how eight's like pause. We just keep going. I don't know if they meant that if they meant to do it like, oh, surprise, this is a remake, but like as you're watching, you're like, wait a minute, no, it's not. Um,
Yeah, and I think that's what took me out of going to do it. Like, I mean, I love Black Christmas, but then you're like, do I really want to see a reboot of this, or like how they're gonna just, what I mean? Like, it's just like that's cool. I've never really been a fan of people doing reboots. I don't mind sequels as much as reboots, but like if I would have known it was a sequel, I'd be like, all right, I'm a little bit more interested in it.
well, yeah, but also this was happening when remakes were just starting to become a thing because it's 2006. I think Texas Chainsaw was 2004. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like that's what I'm saying. It's like in that time frame for me, that was a lot of that going on. I was like, ugh.
no, it wasn't. It was the second or third remake in the early 2000s. We didn't have remake fatigue yet.
I
No, we didn't.
I was telling Lance Aid, welcome back to the show. I
Well, he
was
was
telling,
also in his 30s at the time, so,
yeah,
Yes.
different mindset.
hmm
Um, anyways, well, maybe we just shouldn't talk about the sequels then. Maybe I'll just quiz y'all on the first one. Let me see how many questions I have if we can establish a winner from these. And then when we do Patreon, we'll do the full quiz. Um, one moment, please. Okay.
Well,
One,
Oh,
two, three. Okay, I have three questions. Best out of three wins. I don't know if you're gonna be able to answer these though. Um, are you ready?
hmm
yarp.
What holiday song plays during the opening credits of the original Black Christmas?
Is
Uh,
it Hark the Heralds? No.
I accidentally ruined it earlier because I mentioned it.
oh, did you?
I guess I would win this trivia.
Is it Joy to the World? I was just watching this.
Just have the title alone. What would be appropriate?
'Tis the season.
No, it's not a Christmas song.
Yeah, Lance.
I don't know.
We'll come back to that
Gloria?
one.
Oh, Gloria?
No. Y'all
Glo-
are going deep with these. This is not a deep cut Christmas song. This is one of the most famous Christmas songs. Slow. It could be sad or creepy depending how fast you play it.
No.
No, it's Silent Night.
Yes, thank you, Abe.
You're
Okay.
right. I was thinking of the one with Barb being killed.
No,
Anyways,
that was yeah, that was I don't know what that one was. Um, what is the name of the sorority house mother?
Mrs. Mack,
Thank you, Abe.
who, by the way,
Aiden's already won.
was supposed to be played by Betty Davis, and she turned down the role.
What?
That would have been cool, but you know, Miss Mac, she did her own thing. She's good.
Yeah.
Um, third and last question, Lance. I guess if you answer, we'll do something for you. Um, what is the? Oh, this is stupid. Hang on. What is the ominous nickname given to the mysterious killer in the original Black Christmas?
Billy?
Really?
Oh, well, Lance answered first, so I guess Lance is still in the running. So Aid has 2 points. Lance has three. In Patreon, when we review the remake, we will see who gets the most points, and we won't even. This is why I'm not touching the remake, the 2019. It was they used the title as a vessel to push their political agenda. Now I agree with what they were saying. Feminism, femininity, feminism, super on board. But these movies don't do it like that.
No,
You
it was
don't
overt.
you don't revolve a whole movie around it unless like you're that's your point and you have your own original concept. Well, there you go, folks.
Well, the 2019 remake reboot doesn't deserve. First of all, it's not a Black Christmas movie. I think they just slapped the name on it for the metadata. It's a completely different film. There's the only similarities that you would have are the fact that there's women in a sorority being hunted down, right?
Yeah.
Ho- However, the problem with it is that, and I said this before on previous recordings, so if you remember from years ago and you've been following us this long, that it feels like it was made by a man and what a man thinks feminism is, and not necessarily what it is. Like just to kind of pander to a certain generation, because women don't run around pulling their diva cups out and throwing them around. Like that's not what happens. And
Was
that's what
That's what
happens in this film.
that's what gay guys do, everybody.
Yes.
So, Sophia Takal, I believe is the director's name.
So yeah, and that's my thing. It's like, but who wrote the film? I don't know. I just think I thought it was a waste of time. It was
Of
not
Carrie Ools. Yes, I agree.
of
was-
Carrie Elwes. Yeah. What the fuck? And just the entirety of it and the ending was ridiculous. And I'm just like, this is not a Black Christmas movie.
Well,
Like
here's
you're
the thing.
using the metadata for it.
Like my thing is, if you would have just called it something else and not pretended it was a black, like you have a built-in audience just making a Christmas movie, I would have liked it. I wouldn't. It wouldn't be like, "Ooh, this is amazing," but I wouldn't have left the theater like huffed and puffed that you abused one of my favorite films IP for your political agenda. And
Yeah.
look
And
what
it,
happened. It just so happened Trump became president after that. So thanks, Black Christmas
yeah,
2019.
exactly.
It's all your
And
fault.
Yeah.
yeah, it just sucked. It like that's not how I think whatever. It doesn't
Mm,
deserve our time.
yeah.
Mm. Let's talk about the Diva Cups, by the way. I think I was working at Spencer's during that era of popularity with those things. The
Surprised
big,
you knew what those were.
yeah, sold a lot of them.
What are you talking? Do you know what a Diva Cup is? How would you sell them at Spencer's?
They had them with the jewels, bejeweled
Oh
things.
no, Lance.
No, no, Lance.
Oh
Lance,
my
a Diva Cup is
goodness.
for your period.
Yeah, but they had those other things. So you
You
didn't see
no,
like.
there's no
No,
bejeweled Diva Cups. You can't stick that up your
no,
hoo-ha.
I think he's
I
thinking of
think
the
you did.
actual
He's thinking of
chalice that
a
has the word diva on
It's a Diva
it.
Cup.
Oh, he's thinking of the real glass.
That's what I'm talking about. Jesus Christ.
No,
I said
Lance.
Spencer's. I love how I said it reminded me of when you said it. I said it reminded me of selling those things at fucking Spencer's. That's what I was saying before you go thinking that I didn't know what the other thing was. Like, I just was trying to tell you that that's what I was thinking about when you said it. I was like, huh,
Okay,
I
well, you're
remember.
starting to sound like the deputy with fellatio and how
Oh
he
my god.
remembered what it really meant. So,
FE, it's a new
Oh my god.
exchange.
uh,
Ridiculous.
anyways,
So we're coming up at the end of the episode because we can't move on because Lance didn't do his homework. Surprise, surprise.
he was
Again,
also supposed to host this, but I knew he wasn't going to.
you just because you said I was supposed to do it, I'm waiting for my movie to host.
This was
Lance
your movie. You picked this.
I want
Lance can only do so much in 1 month.
the.
In one night, is all I'll tell you.
I
Oh
get
my
tired.
God.
I'm old.
Don't
Oh,
use that
no.
excuse now.
Now you're pulling the old card.
Yeah, now he agrees with
You
us.
guys just like to throw it out there all the time. Why can't I use it for my own self?
I was using it earlier for our statistics and facts.
Yes. Yes, people. They like to make fun of older people. That's what the show's about.
Well, okay, but Lance, you don't look your age, so you should be happy.
Yes. I have a
You
good
should
gene pool in my side of my family.
you should be proud that you're aging like J-Lo. So just calm your britches,
Oh my
Mhm.
gosh.
even if your dementia's setting in
Wow.
earlier than needs to.
Wow.
If you want to catch our video cast, which condenses a review, and you can see our lovely faces, including Lance's young cherub looking face.
Chip.
The butt part of the cherub.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm a naked angel now. I'm like, good lord.
Our little naked angel here.
Uh,
Uh, you can check us out at youtube.com/slashers podcast. We also have bi-weekly video reviews of all things horror nerd at the comic shop, a YouTube exclusive. So that should be coming up again soon. So please subscribe. Don't forget, guys, we're still working on our, well, I guess by the time this airs, we'll know who the winners are of our lovely Slashers versus Nerds Fitness Challenge, which will probably be the Slashers, even though Joe's working out right now because he just posted it, motherfucker. Anyways,
God.
Mikey bumped me out of the top 5, so I've been pissed at
Oh.
everybody. Lance isn't doing fuck all. I'm just what
He created the account. I don't know what else you want.
Yeah, you asked me to create the account. I just haven't had.
It says Lance Amaro, 0 points.
go
We're one
for a
step
walk.
closer.
It's like you guys are like, sit here and just like, yeah, workout.
Yeah, while you're laying in bed doing nothing all day. Okay. If you'd like to access monthly exclusive Patreon reviews and some sweet perks, find us at patreon.com/slasherspod. You can see Lance showing off his guns, even though he doesn't work out. If you're the kind who likes to wear your support, you can find our Redbubble shop at slasherspod.redbubble.com. And if you'd like to follow us, feel free to do so on Instagram at slasherspod or Mutant Goons from Beyond. If you want to complain directly and tell one of us how wrong we are, you can find us individually at me, pathologically ADE. You could find Mikey at Horror in a Half Shell, Lance at Zombie vs Hate, Doug at Doug Bizarro, and Yahi at Yahi45. Lance, are you making faces?
He's posing for the camera.
He is. Look at it. He's looking at his face. It's like, oh, I just put my creams on. I'm good to go.
Aww.
If Facebook is more your style, you can catch us in the Facebook group Mutant Goons from Beyond. And don't forget to support B Movie TV as well and catch Doug on Friday Night Action, Yahira on Saturday Night Terrors, only on Roku. As always, we rely on the support of our listeners. We want to give a special shout out to our amazing Patreon members, Josh Gunn, Dinosaurs Will Always Be Awesome, my mother, Lorene, Kevin Leamy, Vlad Lewis, Leslie Thurman, Cam, and Dan. Head on over to Patreon and join the likes of these amazing folks. So,
Shout out to Leslie for giving us all those points.
oh yeah, Leslie's killing it as always. So,
As
and
always.
yeah, and Mrs. Lowe has joined. My coworker has joined the.
She does a lot too.
She does. She does. Got her little home gym, but she's also only 30, so good for her. Anyway,
God.
when I was 30, I could do all that too. Anyway, with that, my loves, happy Christmas, Harry. Merry Christmas. Happy fitness challenge. Goodbye and good day.
Happy holidays for those that don't celebrate. I'm here for you.
Oh yeah, happy Hanukkah.
Aid said, keep Christ in Christmas.
Kwanzaa.
Oh my goodness.